Imagine living in a place where simply breathing the air or drinking the water could quietly poison you. A place where the ground beneath your feet isn't solid, but hollowed out and unstable, where it could collapse without warning. And imagine that through it all, you had no idea. No warnings, no red flags, just an ordinary life lived on borrowed time. This was the tragic reality for the residents of Picher, Oklahoma, a small town in the northeast corner of the state that once thrived, only to be forgotten, abandoned, and left to rot. But how does a town go from booming to broken? From vital to vanished? To understand the downfall of Picher, we first have to go back to its unlikely origins. The town emerged from an allotment where vast deposits of lead and zinc were discovered in the early 20th century. The discovery sparked an immediate rush. Almost overnight, as reported by newspapers of the time, a bustling settlement sprang up. By 1920, the population had exploded to over 9,700 people, and by 1926, it peaked at more than 14,000. Picher wasn't just growing, it was thriving. At its height, Picher was the beating heart of the tri-state mining district, spanning northeast Oklahoma, southeast Kansas, and southwest Missouri. Its mines were some of the most productive in the country, so much so that during World War II, in the late 30s and into the early 40s, more than half of all the lead and zinc used by the U.S. military came directly from this one community. The metals pulled from Picher's soil helped fuel the Allied war machine. Bullets, batteries, and armor all owed something to this tiny Oklahoman town. But prosperity comes at a price, and in Picher's case, the cost was hidden just beneath the surface. Mining operations would continue until the mid-1960s, just over 50 years after it all began. Mines began to shut down. What followed was a slow-moving disaster. As the pumps stopped, groundwater slowly began to seep into the hollowed-out mine shafts. This contaminated water spread underground, covering a large area underneath the city. By the 1970s, it began to seep into the local water supply, and people started getting sick. Lead poisoning became rampant throughout the 1970s and into the 1980s. So much so that by 1983, the Environmental Protection Agency declared Picher, along with the nearby communities of Cardin and Shreese, as part of the Tar Creek Superfund site, a designation for the most hazardous environmental disasters in the country. The numbers were staggering. 70 million tons of mining waste, over 1,000 abandoned mining shafts, and a community unknowingly surrounded by an invisible danger. In 1994, the situation would grow even more dire. A study conducted by the Indian Health Service revealed that roughly 35% of children tested within the city of Picher had dangerously high levels of lead within their bloodstreams. That same year, soil samples taken from playgrounds and schools confirmed their worst fears. Toxic heavy metals like lead and cadmium were everywhere. The ground the children played on was slowly and secretly poisoning them. By the early 2000s, it had become clear that Picher was no longer a safe place to live. The risk was no longer just environmental, it was also structural. Years of mining had weakened the ground itself. A couple sinkholes began to open around the town. Cracks began to appear on roadways. Entire blocks now sat precariously on land that could collapse at any time without any warning. But as the town was in the process of evacuations and buyouts, nature would strike the final blow to the city of Picher. On May 10, 2008, an EF4 tornado carved a 75-mile-long path across portions of northeast Oklahoma and into southwestern Missouri, including tearing directly through the community of Picher, leveling more than 20 blocks of the already crumbling town. 6 people would be killed in Picher alone. The storm became the nail in the coffin for the city. What the poison hadn't finished, the wind had. In 2009, the town's post office shut its doors for good. Federal buyouts were completed and the last remaining residents were relocated. Picher, Oklahoma, once a symbol of American industrial strength, was now officially dead. Today, Picher sits as a ghost town in its truest sense. Empty streets now stretch through fields of cracked pavement and rusted fences. Concrete foundations now mark where homes once stood, now overtaken by weeds and silence. What used to be neighborhoods are now just empty road grids, slowly being swallowed by nature itself. No people, no stores, no sirens, just the wind and the toxic soil beneath everything. Towering chat piles still loom at the edges of town, grim monuments of the mining industry that once fueled the town's rise and led to its eventual downfall. Contaminated with lead, cadmium, and other heavy metals, they continue to leach poison into the ground and water. Children used to play on them, unaware that they were slowly being poisoned. A memorial now sits in the middle of town, telling the story of Picher in somber terms. How the town helped win a world war, how it fueled the American industry, but also how it was left behind when its usefulness expired. So the next time you think about the community of Picher, don't think of it as a failed mining town. Think of it as a place where people once lived, laughed, raised kids, went to work, just like anywhere else in our country. And then remember how fast it all disappeared. Picher didn't die because of one single disaster. It died because no one was paying attention until it was far too late to do anything about it. And now, all that's left is silence.